Donald Trump's trip to California today revealed once again every bit of the leader that he is not, talking only about his petty grievance, refusing to discuss unconditioned aid, and going off on the state and local officials doing everything they can right now to support a community in crisis. But that did not stop Gavin Newsom from actually being a leader, actually bringing comfort to the city of Los Angeles and calling out Donald Trump in the process. And I want to get into all of that. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way and it really means the world to me. Now, like I said, Gavin Newsom responded and called out Donald Trump in a press conference with reporters when asked a specific question about the unconditioned aid Donald Trump does not want to give because he's angry that California voted for Kamala Harris because he's that small of a person. But first, let's get into the ridiculous question that Donald Trump answered that kind of spurred this all on.
You talked about conditions being placed on aid to California, voter ID and the like. Are there any conditions that you're going to put on aid to North Carolina?
We're going to do a lot for North Carolina. They've been very slow. I don't know why it's been so bad. This has been one of the worst I've seen. Katrina, of course, was something that obviously that was a long time ago. That was not good. But this has been very slow. I don't know if that was for political reasons because they lost the state. Biden lost the state. Maybe he felt he doesn't care. Maybe there were other reasons. I don't know. But this has been very slow. By any standard, this has been very slow. And we're gonna make up for lost time.
No conditions you're going to push for aid.
Well, in California, I have a condition. In California, we want them to have voter ID so the people have a voice, because right now the people don't have a voice because you don't know who's voting, and it's very corrupt. And we also want them to release the water. If they released the water, they wouldn't have had a problem. If they released the water when I told them to, because I told them to do it 7 years ago, if they would have done it, you wouldn't have had the problem that you had. You might not have even had a fire. So, but here I don't have that. It's a different thing. You got hit by a storm. The people are incredible. They worked really well. Franklin was fantastic, and other groups. By the way, other groups came in that were also fantastic, and other states came in. Tennessee and a couple of others came in, and they really helped. That's the way it's supposed to be. No, this is a different kind of a thing.
As I said in a previous video, Donald Trump is a moron. The conditions that he's putting on this aid, the speculation were that they were going to be about fire protocol, beefing up the LAFD, and that's just not the case. Donald Trump is conditioning the aid on the basis of voter ID, allegedly, according to him, because of his own personal grievance, and because he can't point to anything that the city did wrong. Sure, there can always be more that we can do to improve the LA Fire Department to make sure that people are as protected as possible. But all this commentary from pundits online and now the president about attacking Gavin Newsom is all personal. They don't actually care about fixing the problem. That's why this is the condition Donald Trump wants. Voter ID does not stop fires. And it's the reason Gavin Newsom had to set the story straight in a press conference I want to check out right here.
January 10th.
Governor, has the president said he wants to meet with you tomorrow?
We haven't had any contact with the White House as of this moment.
Can you explain a little bit about your relationship? Because you cooperated very well as first
Yeah.
time on fires. What happened here?
You have to ask him. We invited him out here. I'm glad he's coming out here. I'm grateful that the president is taking the time. I hope he does take the time to listen to the folks impacted directly by these wildfires. I hope he has a chance to visit the folks in Altadena, not just in the Palisades. And I hope he comes with a spirit of cooperation and collaboration. That's the spirit to which we welcome him. I've said this many times, open hand, not a closed fist. And I will reflect on the frame of your question. We had a great relationship during COVID, well established, well defined. I don't think there was a Democratic governor in the country that worked more collaboratively with the President of the United States. That's my mindset when it comes to emergencies and disasters. No politics, no finger pointing. We're going to have the backs of the people in this state, and I hope the President comes back after his visit tomorrow and is here for not just the short run, but the long haul.
Your critics in the legislature said that it was poor form on your part to establish a special session of the legislature before he even took office to Trump-proof the state, that sent a bad message.
Well, the Trump proof is someone else's words, not ours. I think it was rather prescient. We're already engaged in lawsuits in litigation. He already is assaulted the 14th Amendment as a birthright citizenship. I think there's a likelihood of additional lawsuits as it relates to some of his executive actions, and we didn't have time to wait past his prologue. Not just my administration, which was just 2 years working with the Trump administration. The Brown administration had 2 years working with the Trump administration. Total, there was 122 lawsuits. We didn't initiate those lawsuits. They were in response to actions by the Trump administration. I thought it was important that we prepare for that, and I think by definition that preparedness has put us in a position where we can quickly move with the Department of Justice to assert ourselves against the backdrop of an assault on a lot of hard-earned progress here that goes back to Ronald Reagan, goes back to the 60s and 70s and 80s. So you could do both things at the same time. Nothing personal. It's just reality and being prepared and having that experience.
How is it not, Governor, how is it not personal? We've heard, you just described him as an assault, putting an assault on the 14th Amendment. We know that yesterday in an interview, President Trump said that you are responsible for not bringing water down from Northern California to Southern California. Is it possible to isolate this, to isolate the fires, and to have a relationship and a dynamic with the president to help resolve this? And are you worried about the federal government not reimbursing the $2.5 billion?
Well, it's not, you have to ask him that question, not personal for me, any of those things. It's just fundamental policy disagreements on birthright citizenship. But on emergency preparedness, emergency management, there should be no daylight between federal administration and state and local representatives, and that's the spirit that defines today in the $2.5 billion, bipartisan. You had not just Tom Lackey, you had a number of other Republican representatives here, and we're grateful for them. We were there, their colleagues were there for other more conservative colleagues in more conservative parts of the state, up in Paradise and Campfire, and never even thought about it, never thought twice about that. So none of this is personal in any way, shape, or form. But it's some people want to politicize things. That's just not our approach. And as it relates to reimbursements, I have all the expectation and belief that we'll be reimbursed for these dollars, and that we'll have the support of Congress and the President of the United States. I absolutely believe that.
What about some of the concerns about the president saying that there should be limits on the funding for California unless the state does some sort of water?
Well, it's some sort of that is confusing to not just you, but to every expert and everyone that's tried to review it. The State Water Project has nothing to do with the fires here. Nothing. Period. Full stop. It's not he said, she said. This is not just an assertion. It's a foundational fact. And I think it's really important in terms of how we express the reporting here that we deal not just with both sidesism. The State Water Project has nothing to do with water supply as it relates to water suppression for municipal systems. The state reservoirs are at or near record highs, and the issues around the Endangered Species Act have been issues that have been litigated and adjudicated and politicized for as long as I've been alive. They're not novel to this administration. They go back to the George H.W. Bush administration and litigation and lawsuits. So again, that's why I take none of this personally. I just, with respect, think it's incredibly important that people know the truth, because it's very damaging when people believe such misinformation. And I don't mean it in a malign sense. Maybe the president just doesn't know that there's not a spigot that can be turned to solve all the water problems that he alleges exist that don't exist as it relates to the state water system here in Southern California.
Thank God for Gavin Newsom right now. I can't even imagine being in the position that he is, trying to balance Donald Trump's feelings, because you still want to make sure you can get aid for your state, and to do so, you have to be nice to Donald Trump, and calling out his ridiculous attacks and misinformation. He is doing a wonderful job. Good for the governor. And it's not just Donald Trump anymore. It's Elon, too, pushing this misinformation online. And I want to get into a clip a couple of weeks ago, of Gavin calling out Elon Musk for the ridiculous misinformation he was pushing at this time. And a clip right here.
I'm more interested from you in how damaging it is when you have somebody with that type of a platform who is next week going to be the president of the United States is injecting inaccurate information about the worst wildfires in American history?
Let me answer that by thanking President of the United States, Joe Biden, who within 36 hours supported a major disaster declaration by text. Within a few minutes later, committed 100. He could have just committed 75%, 90. He said 100% of all the costs for disaster recovery. That took the time to meet with first responders, was here on the ground. I want to thank President Joe Biden. And then I want to offer that as an example to the incoming president of presidential leadership, a president of the United States of America, being here for the American citizen. He didn't ask me, is this a conservative part of California, Altadena? Did they vote for me? What, he didn't ask for his staff to look at the last election and see how many were for Kamala or how many were for Donald Trump. He said, "Pal, you got it. We have their backs." Express empathy. I have firefighters that went up to him and they had tears in his eyes after meeting Joe Biden, who was consoling them. I think that's an example for the incoming president. What's not, I think, helpful or beneficial is a string of consciousness, these wild-eyed fantasies that somehow the state water project, we have reservoirs that are at or near historic highs, full, completely full, that somehow there's a magical spigot in California, in Northern California, that just can be turned on and all of a sudden there'll be rain or water flowing everywhere. It's not helpful.
That is what Trump and Elon are all about. Self-serving, angry, vengeful, and trying to muddy the waters. Like I said, they want to confuse people. They want people to be upset. They want to be distracted so that they don't focus on their own failures. Donald Trump right now is failing in his job as president to respond to this crisis. He's trying to distract people, but we're not going to let him. We're going to keep on talking about his failures every single day on the show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you soon.